You don't need more motivation. You don't need more inspiration. You need to do it anyway, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, because that's the moment your future is decided, not by how you feel, but by what you do in spite of how you feel. The world doesn't reward the man who works hard once. It rewards the one who works hard every day, who repeats, who refines, who stays. Success is not a spark. It is a furnace, burning through boredom, fatigue, doubt, fear. It is showing up again and again and again when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when there's no guarantee it will pay off. But it will, because the universe responds to consistency. Napoleon Hill wrote that the greatest power a man possesses is the power to control his own mind. And that control is forged through repetition, through discipline, through persistence so relentless it turns effort into instinct. Hill said, "Persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel. It hardens you. It turns your will from water to iron. It gives shape to your ambition." But here's what most people get wrong. They think consistency is a mood. It isn't. It's a decision. A daily, hourly, moment-to-moment decision to honor your word, to keep the promise you made to yourself long after the mood you made it in has disappeared. That's what separates the amateurs from the professionals, the starters from the finishers, the talkers from the builders. Consistency is the silent force behind all greatness. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize industry by working in bursts. He showed up. Every day, he demanded results from himself and his team with brutal focus. He didn't drift. He drove toward a clear vision, step by step, brick by brick. There were no shortcuts, only systems, only execution, only the will to keep doing what needed to be done until the results had no choice but to show up. That's what you must build now, not just goals, but habits, not just intentions, but systems, because goals give direction, but systems create destiny. The man who masters his systems masters his fate, and systems are made from consistency, one repeated act, one controlled day, one disciplined hour at a time. Even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when it feels like nothing is happening, because something is happening underneath, inside, deep in the structure of who you are becoming. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not viral. It doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like waking up tired and doing it anyway. It feels like silence and struggle. But that's what makes it sacred. It's the proof that you've grown past the need to be entertained by your own progress. You don't need fireworks. You need rhythm. You need flow. You need commitment that runs deeper than emotion. And when you lock into that rhythm long enough, a strange thing happens. Everything begins to bend toward you. Not all at once, not overnight, but steadily, quietly, powerfully, because life rewards the man who keeps going. You've heard the phrase, success leaves clues, but what they don't tell you is those clues are buried in repetition. They're hidden in the days you don't want to show up, in the workouts when you're exhausted, in the work sessions when inspiration is gone, in the late nights, early mornings, and ordinary hours when no one is watching. That's when it counts. Because consistency is not for the world to see. It's for you to become. Every day you show up when it would be easier to quit, you're casting a vote for the future you. Every disciplined act is proof that you're becoming what you believe. And the world responds to belief in motion. Carnegie didn't become Carnegie in bursts of passion. He built steel empires because he built steel habits. He mastered consistency in his thoughts, in his choices, in his vision. He didn't allow his emotions to run his calendar. He moved forward regardless. And you must do the same. There will be days you doubt yourself. There will be weeks when nothing seems to move. You will question your pace. You will question your ability. You will wonder if it's all worth it. But in those exact moments, remember, consistency is the breakthrough. The results you want are hiding behind the door you keep unlocking with effort. And every time you show up, even when it doesn't seem to matter, you are turning the key. You don't need faster, you need faith. faith in the process, faith in the law of accumulation, faith in the unseen compounding of every action done with purpose, because the results are always coming, but they only appear for the one who stayed long enough to deserve them. Your potential is not unlocked by a single dramatic gesture. It is earned in the tiny, quiet acts of self-respect that nobody else sees. Waking up early, finishing the task, pushing through resistance, choosing your standard even when no one would blame you for quitting. You have to ask yourself, do I want comfort or do I want transformation? Because you can't have both. Comfort will give you consistency, but only in decline. Discipline will give you consistency and growth. One leads to decay, the other to destiny. So don't look for the spark. Build the fire. Don't wait for the rush. Create the rhythm. This is how leaders are born, not in flashes of brilliance, but in years of quiet consistency, day by day, hour by hour, brick by brick, until one day the world wakes up and calls you an overnight success. And you'll smile because you'll know the truth, that you became unstoppable the moment you refused to stop. The world bends not for the man who starts, but for the man who keeps going. There's a version of you waiting to be revealed, not found, forged. And consistency is the fire that forges him. He is not born in a moment of hype. He is shaped through grind, through grit, through the discipline to rise again and again, while everyone else sleeps, complains, and waits for things to feel right. He is revealed each time you do what you said you would do. Not when it's easy, but when it's hard. Not when you feel strong, but when you feel empty. Because that's what builds identity. Identity is not a label. It's not a mantra. It's not what you say. It's what you do repeatedly. And if you want to become consistent, you must identify as the kind of person who never negotiates with excuses. That's the shift. You stop saying, I'm trying to be consistent, and you start saying, this is who I am. Consistency becomes your character, your integrity, your code. And when your standards are higher than your moods, you start moving with power that can't be touched. This is the mindset that built empires. This is how Thomas Edison became immortal, not because he got lucky, but because he outlasted failure. 10,000 failed attempts, and still he pressed on. Why? Because he didn't attach his worth to outcomes. He attached his identity to the work itself. And when the work becomes part of you, when you stop relying on motivation and start relying on muscle memory, you become dangerous. Dangerous to procrastination, dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to every version of you that once hesitated, because now you are consistent, not perfect, but relentless, not flawless, but unshakable. This is the force Napoleon Hill pointed to over and over again. He called it persistence with definiteness of purpose. And when those two things fuse, clarity and consistency, you begin to command life. You stop living by chance and start living by choice. But it all begins with the little moments, the ignored decisions, the 5 minutes that feel insignificant, because that's where greatness hides, in the places no one claps for. Do you show up when no one's watching? Do you keep going when the feedback disappears? Do you follow through when the novelty fades? If the answer is yes, then understand this. Everything you want is already aligning, not because the world is changing, but because you are. And when you change, your entire relationship with time, effort, and momentum shifts. Discipline becomes peace. Repetition becomes art. The process becomes joy because you no longer need validation. You no longer chase motivation. You've moved past the beginner's mind into the mastery mindset. This is consistency in its purest form, not mechanical, not forced, but internalized, integrated. You no longer try to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You no longer try to be the kind of person who follows through. You are the kind of person who follows through, and that identity is unbreakable. The universe moves for the man who refuses to retreat. It does not move instantly. It tests first. It waits to see if you mean it. and most don't. They crack under pressure. They fold at the first sign of resistance. They mistake temporary discomfort for a permanent no. But the rare ones, they keep coming because their thoughts are not based on circumstances. Their belief is not up for debate. They do not need evidence. They become the evidence. Walt Disney was bankrupt, rejected, and mocked, but his thoughts never wavered. He saw a castle where others saw failure. He believed in magic when the world believed in limitation. And because he refused to surrender that belief, he made the world believe with him. That's how you bend reality. You don't chase it. You build it in the mind first until it becomes so real, so emotionally charged that life itself can't ignore you. That's not ego. That's alignment. Alignment with purpose. Alignment with vision. Alignment with the laws of the universe that always reward clarity, energy, and persistence. Hill called it a definite chief aim, not a vague wish, not a list of goals, a central obsession burned into the subconscious through repetition, emotion, and faith. A mental image so dominant it overrides fear, so vivid it commands your body into motion before you have time to hesitate. When you have a definite chief aim, your life stops being random. You stop asking, what should I do today? You already know. Every day becomes a step. Every hour becomes a brick. You are building something invisible, and because you believe in it, it becomes inevitable. But belief without discipline is nothing more than a dream. You must think like a builder, not a wisher, not a wanderer, a builder of empires. And empires are built with habits. What you do daily reveals what you truly believe. You can say you want success, but if your thoughts are negative and your routines are lazy, your true belief is mediocrity. If you want to shift your reality, shift what you tolerate. Shift how you think when no one's watching. Shift how you move when there's no applause, because that's when it counts. That's when the seeds are planted in the dark, in the silence, in the ordinary moments that most people waste. But not you. You are becoming dangerous. Dangerous to doubt, dangerous to fear, dangerous to every limitation that once held you back, because the way you now think is different. You no longer wonder if it's possible. You assume it is and work backward from that place. You don't beg for results. You command alignment. You don't react to life. You architect it one thought at a time, one decision at a time, one action at a time. This is the power Hill was trying to hand you, not just ideas, but a weapon, not just knowledge, but fire. The kind of fire that once lit in the mind never dies. The kind of fire that bends steel. The kind of fire that bends time. The kind of fire that bends the world.